Welcome everybody to this wonderful conference. This is maybe one of our favorite conference all the times, although it's our first time here. We watched all the YouTube videos from this talk. Hopefully this one will be up there now. And I asked for 2 years Tomek to invite us here. I tried to bribe him. It didn't work. I tried to convince him. It didn't work. Eventually, he made this big mistake inviting us here this time, and now you guys will have to suffer for 1 hour with us.
And
We're not gonna share what was the bribe.
No,
Okay.
no, but yeah. So he took the bribe, but he didn't invite me still. So this is important. Yeah. So it's a wonderful conference. Great people. Good to see you all. And this is a special conference because it's about LeSS, and we all like LeSS, and we all adore LeSS, right? Who here knows something about LeSS? From the classes, books, websites. Look around. It's like 85.5% of people are knowledgeable about LeSS, which is fantastic. Which means in this conference we can talk about more advanced stuff. But we're gonna start slow. And because we value LeSS so much, we'd like to ask you to pull up your phones, scan this QR code, and we're going to do it several times in this talk, so you will practice your phone. And see, please mark yourself.
Does it work from the back?
You guys see the QR code from the
Yeah,
back?
okay, excellent.
What do you value about LeSS? If you're knowledgeable about LeSS, could you please mark what's so special about LeSS for you? And it's okay to be sleepy and distracted?
We're in Poland.
No, it's still 10 a.m. and it's dark already. So people say it's thoughtful, systemic org design. My organization will benefit from high adaptiveness. Fantastic. We can do so much more with less. Maybe we don't need so many roles, so many backlogs, so many product owners, so many different walls between the teams. Yeah, fantastic. And it's also a way to sustain a startup at scale. I'm not sure if you guys see that from out there, but this choice has only 5%. It's a way to sustain a startup at scale. But actually, LeSS is a way to sustain a startup at scale. You know, it's very different to these big, slow, bureaucratic organizations, because LeSS can help you to create something very special. And speaking of special and speaking of startups, you might have heard about this company called Cursor. A joke from Craig Alarman we've learned a week ago. He says the following: if you're still using Copilot, not Cursor, you are 2 weeks outdated already. So Cursor is a big new thing which developers use. Anybody's using any AI tools as a developer? Copilot, Cursor, something else? Yes, it's about 30% of people are using that, and we think this is coming. But what's special about Cursor? Well, first of all, Andrej Karpathy, the god of AI, somehow he actually says it's way better than Copilot from Microsoft. And another very interesting thing about Cursor is it's been built. I'm not sure if you guys know this. It's been built by only 4 people. It's 4 people, 4 guys, and you can watch their podcast with Lex, and they are doing all of it. They build it, they maintain it, they train LLMs, they do marketing, they do sales, they do support, they do all of it, just 4 people. Wow, that's the high adaptiveness as its core. And they are beating Microsoft, which has, we calculated, around 700 developers working on this. So 4 people can compete these days with large organizations, which is fantastic. And what's so special about these small companies? Imagine they've pushed out a new version of Cursor and they've learned something that you guys, customers, want. And they need to change now something in the product. Do you think they will wait for another financial year to plan your feature? Ha ha ha, of course not. Do you think they will wait another month for all the product managers come together and agree on the roadmap? Ha ha ha, of course not. So they will just do it. So this is the most adaptive kind of organization you can have, right? Which it doesn't need to, so the change is normal for them. And why we value, and you guys value LeSS so much, because LeSS can help us, right, to attain those qualities of a super adaptive organization, but at scale. So you guys know this picture. It's an opening talk, so we need to show some basic LeSS pictures here, and Bastian, I'm sure, will appreciate that too. Basic LeSS picture. This is a startup at scale, up to 50 people. This picture, this process, this framework, this org design system will help you to build a startup at scale with about 50 people. You can be super adaptive as these 4 guys are, but with up to 50 people. If you have more than 50 people, there's a less huge, slightly bigger scaled startup, which can also be super adaptive. And when you enter these companies, and we've seen several companies which have been adapting LeSS. Anybody's in a LeSS adoption here? Anybody saw people doing LeSS? Like 25% of people saw it. Eventually, if you enter these companies, you'll see people working. But not just 4 guys, maybe up to 50, 60, 100, 20 guys. They learn about the work, they plan the work together, and they then sit and they'll self-manage. Essentially, it's a larger team, startup at scale, and we call it team of teams. They are just enjoying themselves. And you actually cannot say, looking at them, if they're doing LeSS or not. They're just enjoying the work, and they're super adaptive, which is a fantastic way, fantastic place to be. And I think this conference is a special place where we all adore LeSS, and we like LeSS. And I think it's also been our problem with Roland. We like LeSS so much that we start to look at the companies as black and white, as ones and zeros. We look at the company and say, oh, this company is doing LeSS, it's a fantastic org, and this company will never do LeSS, so it's a bad organization. So essentially, we kind of divided the world in our minds. I'm not sure if you guys share this, but I have it in my mind. I caught myself trying to think, or this company can do LeSS, and this company will never benefit. But this world is actually not black and white, and the tool we are presenting today is actually a multicolored panel of different options, and Roland will tell you all about it.
Well, you can do too, but it's the occasion that I can do it. Welcome. Good morning, everybody. So the world is multicolored, and Alexey and I have been talking a lot. We know each other for years and years and years. I will go here so you in the back can see me too. We've been talking a lot about our consultancy gigs that we had, and try to explain to each other what is it exactly they're doing and what are the dynamics. And while we were doing that, we started to see patterns and like recurring ways that people try to organize to do work. And it resulted in, after 3 years of study, yes, 3 years of study, I'm sorry for a simple map, we created this beautiful picture, and it's a very powerful instrument. So the map has 16 boxes, which we call archetypes. And actually these archetypes are organizational units that you can use to build your organization with. And the horizontal axis, you might be familiar with, is related to the scope. It's a bit low, but the scope of skills mandate. Now, scope of skills is how much understanding you have, technical, what you can do, what your capabilities are, and the mandate refers to how much you're allowed to do in an organization. So there's this deliberate idea that people have about what you can or cannot do. For instance, this is a good team, but they cannot deploy to production. That's a skill that we don't want them to have because of such and so reasons. So it's a deliberate, conscious decision.
They can, but they must not do that.
They must not do that.
Not allowed to deploy to production.
Now, these boxes from left to right are organized in verticals for, we start with functional units. So you can think of one person having a certain skill, a data mining expert, or maybe a group of people doing that. That's a functional department, first row. Second is we're going to combine people with different skills because that makes sense, because you get a a better unit that can perform better, that can, you know, cross. We know that the idea of putting different skills together and let them collaborate, it saves time and handoffs and in between people. So that's a good decision, creating teams there. But those teams in the second row are still incomplete because it's pretty difficult to create, column 3, complete end-to-end teams from concept to cash. One team that can ship. Wow, that's interesting. The fourth column is actually, it's called expanding, and we refer here to the idea that it's good to have an end-to-end team, but it's even better if you have a team that continuously learns on their journey. So if there's new technology or something that they don't know yet, they will pick up automatically on it because they're eager to learn more. So it's expanding in this horizontal direction of growing their skills. And from left to right, it changes it gives you a different dynamic if you use this organizational unit to build an organization with. Now, vertically, we talk about the conscious decision to have an organizational unit work on a certain scope. So this is the scope of work you are allowed to do. Now, sometimes there is not really a lot of choice. For instance, if you have a very deeply skilled expert in the first column, a functional unit, then that person will probably need instructions that are pretty detailed to match his expertise so that they know exactly what to do. Okay, because if you give them a very broad assignment, they will probably not know, so how do I apply my expertise into this whole concept? So we tend to give those people tasks. And if you give them a task, then they know exactly what to do, and then they're happy. Okay. As we go up, we talk about the second row is capabilities. We give people or units a capability to work on. So their responsibility is broader. They have a broader understanding of the problem, and you could see this as maybe responsible for an application or a function. Maybe the search team could be living here. Partial business. Okay, the partial business is maybe a larger area, not the whole product, because that's the top row, but a smaller part of it. Maybe a customer intake is a domain that is shared by a group of units, and they collaborate on it to try to create value there. So the larger the domain we have, the bigger, the more complex problems the organizational unit can handle. Now you can imagine what happens if you're in the W4. You will have a unit that is capable of doing anything, and they actually have the knowledge and the authority to work on anything.
Wow.
That's powerful. In the light. So it's a map, and I don't know if you're familiar with maps. You've traveled before. It's a map to plan your journey, and a map is easy because it's handy. If you know where you are, you might go like, I don't want to be here. I want to go to a different location. You can plot your itinerary, and it's also about a map. There's no right or wrong. Okay, is there a right or wrong place to be on the map of Poland? Well, in Poland maybe there is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me rephrase that. Is there a wrong or good or bad place to be on the map of France? No, there's not. South of France is good.
It's perfect. Everywhere you go. People don't speak English.
So it's not bad, if your organization is here or there. The only thing that we need to be aware of is the setup that you have in your organization fit for purpose? Does it provide you the capabilities that you actually want to have? So that's the decision between right or wrong. Okay. Yeah, so the question is, did you already see cursor on this map?
Where would you put a cursor on the map?
The four guys
do
who
they
are
do tasks?
outbeating Copilot.
Do they just build features? Do they understand business? Do they actually do impactful things across the entire business?
Yeah?
Yeah.
You got it?
So that's like the most adaptive part of the map. It's not good or bad, but it's if you want to be adaptive, and if you are adaptive like a startup for people,
and actually
that's the place.
It's very nice that the image of the cursor people is a little bit outside the map, because there's life beyond the map. There's outside the map. It says unbounded here. unbounded horizontal and horizontal and vertical. And that this means you can imagine that if they are working on the whole product, but they see new market opportunities, and they might add totally new functionality and ideas that are not about developing an AI-driven IDE, then they will do it. So they go beyond the existing concept of what their product is. Yeah. Hey, that's where Les lives.
Surprise, surprise.
Ha! Because, well, we want people to understand the whole product, and we want everybody to, well, to be able to work on everything, to have all skills possible. It's about learning. If this is Les, then where does Les Huge live? I'll give you 1 second or 10 seconds to think about that. So Les and Les Huge, we have multiple Les's as requirement areas next to each other. Ah, okay. Because each requirement area is a partial business problem. Does that make sense for everybody? Yeah? Okay, good. Now let's get some action again. This question: what does LeSS optimize for? So you're familiar with the concept of optimizing goals? Oh, sorry, I need to go away for the. Oh, I continue. Okay. So what does LeSS optimize for?
Some people say customer value.
Customer value.
Some people say
Adaptiveness
of the product.
Nobody says, or hardly anybody, roles and career path security.
There's a career path insecurity in LeSS sometimes.
Well,
because you'll need to learn maybe different things and pick a new role definition for you.
Yeah.
Shorter lead times, maybe, but it's not what it is optimizing for.
It might give you shorter lead times, but it's not the primary goal why you would want to adopt LeSS. Yeah. Adaptiveness of the product, I think we can agree on that. Okay.
Why are we showing this optimizing goals, and what's the connection to the map, Roland?
Good question. Why are we showing the map with the optimizing goals? Well, if you choose certain configurations in your organization, let's say that you have an organization where there's many people who have work on tasks and who have deep technical expertise or deep expertise, then that is per se not a bad idea if your goal of the organization, the strategy that you have, fits that kind of configuration that you have in your organization. If you want to be highly adaptive and you want to be able to switch very fast if there's a new opportunity, then having an organization with many, many people that need detailed instructions on tasks might not be the best fit. So we're thinking about optimizing goals to be able to understand and then use the map to see what kind of organization that we actually have, to understand whether we are fit for purpose and if there's a reason to start changing things. Because we don't change just for fun. Okay. Where would your organization be? Next one.
You can map different things. I think I can.
Yeah.
I can do from here.
I lost my thread. Yeah, you can take this one.
It's okay. Get off me.
No, I'm going here. I'm going here.
The question is, what can we map? We're gonna have an exercise where we'll ask you to think about your org. What do we map? We typically would like to map the working units, like people, maybe human, right? And depending how much different mandates and skills they have, you would map them differently. You can map a pool of people. It's not a team, it's a group that maybe receive work from one type and they do it. Maybe a group of product managers or business analysts, which serve multiple teams, will be there. You can definitely map the teams. You can map a team of teams. So these are the kind of work units, blocks, units, which you can nicely map. And because we would like to map to be future-proof, you can also map AI agents. You know that 2025 will be the year of AI agents, and some of you will get an AI colleague at your companies. This is happening. So you can map AI agents, and I think in the beginning, the AI agents will be just here on the map. They will be just given some task, maybe to observe some server load and optimize it. But as AI will grow and develop, we'll see AI agents joining teams and even team of teams. So this is the level where we find the map to be the most useful. This is the type of things you can map, and you can already start thinking, where would my team or my group of teams or my department or my LeSS adoption or my organization will fit on the map. It's a very useful exercise to do.
Because mapping, like we did in the beginning, was showing where cursor sits. It's interesting to have an idea where a company like predominantly lives on the map, but it doesn't really give you a lot of detailed information about what's going on inside. So now this is opening up the box and then looking inside the company how the different units collaborate together.
So you can map static things like where we are now, or you can also map dynamic things. And I was a part of a LeSS adoption at a company called Poster, and it's been published, and that's why I got my certified LeSS trainer badge, because I was a part of this adoption. And with this map, you can also show progression. You can show different stages of change that the company went through. Like in the beginning, they were a very traditional organization. It is just an example what you can map on this map. So in the beginning, before I met them, they were a very traditional organization. They had a CEO, being a somewhat multi-skilled person, observing the whole business, and there were a lot of low-level people there, low level as on the map, like the developers and testers and analysts who were just given tasks to do, and there were a pool of so-called product owners who were feeding them with work. They did some change, so this is how you can map the change, and they've learned, okay, actually Scrum is a good idea, and they moved from individuals to teams, and they have two kinds of teams. Some teams were still so much focusing on the task level, like maintaining servers and doing some just platform backend work, and some teams were more customer-centric and were allowed to build some features for the customers. And this is where I joined them as a coach, and then I helped them to go up here on the map from this part to this part and create a team of teams. There were 8 feature teams in LeSS, and the product owners who would be before here assigned to teams, they were essentially became product managers who were freed from lists and freed to teams, and they were helping and serving the teams with the domain knowledge they have. And by the way, they also during the LeSS adoption, they also discussed different other ways how to structure themselves. There were an argument whether they want all the 8 teams to work on one product, or whether they split the product into parts and create this a very small, less huge adoption. And of course, we suggested them to do a LeSS adoption. So this is just an example what you can map on this Org Topologies map, because the world is not black and white. The world is not LeSS or unless. And if the company is ready to jump from this box to this box, fantastic. But in my example, in my experience, it's a very rare case. In most cases, you will need to slowly take your company on this journey. And we have a group of people who we call champions, and some of them are here in the room, and they all contributed to different case studies, and they mapped different organizations they were working on, and they mapped different journeys of their organization, and they find this to be a very insightful tool, because who should map where you are? It's the people in your company should map where they are to understand whether it's the right place on the map or not. So by mapping together with your managers to your employees, you can create sense of ownership, understanding where we are and where we want to go. And this sense of ownership of the change, it actually creates this more stronger force to actually help people to understand why we need to go from one place to another. If people understand the journey, there are higher chances they will come with you on this journey.
It's a common language for talking about org design that is much more precise than saying, yeah, we're going to do a blah 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 adoption. And the tool, as we show here, it's not that Org Topologies has already been used by these companies, just to be correct, to plot out their journey. This is all done in retrospect, like you did on PosterPos. So it's also very good to reflect on the past and see what kind of journey we're actually been.
And if you like to use this map, there's a QR code for the website. It's all for free. You can use it. You can have a mirror template, make a screenshot and save it for later. We believe it's a good, healthy exercise to go with your teams, with your management, and try to understand where we are, what we're trying to improve on, what we're trying to optimize for.
Let's invite the third speaker.
Yes, you wanna?
No, that's good. Go.
And yes, please make the screenshot if you want. We call this document primer, where you can learn about the maps. And recently we have been joined. We were joined by Craig Alarman, who you guys know from LeSS, and we would like to give him a few words about Org Topologies. So now we need the sound engineer.
Hi, my name is Craig, and I'm trying to reduce suffering in product development. And one of the things I've come to appreciate over the years is that in order to get change going, people need relatively simple tools in order to understand where they are and where they want to go next. And one of the things I've come to really appreciate about organizational topologies is this focus on empowering people for themselves to understand where they are and where they want to go next. I also appreciate the fact that it's a big tent. It's not limited, for example, to product development. It's applicable to service industries. And it's not just for one goal, like adaptiveness or agility. If your goal is increasing resource utilization or fast flow or ideation, there's a place for applying org topologies there as well. And it also shows a pathway that people can think about taking from one step to another. So I'm very excited about the possibilities of organizational topologies to help the world of work, and doubly so in this revolutionary age of AI. You know, it seems to me that we're in a real milestone period that's somewhat similar to the Industrial Revolution, and that AIs aren't just going to be another power tool that we use to be a little bit more efficient, but like in the Industrial Revolution, where the use of steam-powered engines could replace people or orders of magnitude augment what people could do. And that would lead not just to the old ways of working with better tools, but new organizations, new roles and responsibilities.
What Craig has been saying is that this is a pretty generic tool. You can map a LeSS journey, a LeSS adoption, or you can help any company at any stage, even a service-oriented organization, to try to understand and get change going. And we have half an hour to go. We like to explain you different kinds of organization and different kinds of optimizing goals your companies might need instead of high adaptiveness. So we're gonna show you 3 different topologies that we call them.
Topology is setup that you might recognize, an ecosystem or configuration of organizational units that is very recognizable. And this first topology that we saw is where there's this upper left quadrant. There are people sitting there or people living there who see the whole product, or they see partial product view, and they understand customer problems or business problems, but they're not capable of shipping anything. They don't have those capabilities. So they are thinking of stuff. They are making specifications, and they are telling people or asking people what to do. The directing group, we could call it. And at the bottom here, there are specialists who do stuff. they need to get tasked or informed or get specifications, and then they can do things. And together, the directors or the thinkers and the doers can create value. But that doesn't go by itself. You need something in between, some glue to make it work, which is known like project management or portfolio management or whatever you want to call it. Dependency management maybe. Because of course all these units have their narrow view, narrow specialized skill, and they will depend upon each other to be able to deliver that value as perceived by the customer. So the question of course is, if we have directors and people who are doers, what is this topology optimizing for? Is this a good way of organizing yourself? Yes, it is, but it depends, of course, what you're trying to optimize. Oh.
Next QR code.
Let's try.
Please think what is the first topology is optimizing for. Output predictability, working to priority, releasability, utilization, customer value, adaptiveness of the product. You guys are correct. It is
Utilization, yeah.
utilization of what? Of resources, of skills, of rare people, what is known as a resource utilization, output predictability. So they are trying to be predictable. Probably this is an illusion that they are predictable, but they are trying hard to, you know, put Gantt charts and project charters and project plans to be predictable. It's important for them, not so much of adaptiveness, because once your projects are planned with all the resources assigned, imagine now you need to change something, or you'd rather wait for another replanning cycle, which is scheduled for the next February. So this organization is not per se super adaptive, and it doesn't want to be adaptive. It wants to be predictable. It wants to be effective, efficient in the way it is using its resources. So you guys are correct. And is it a bad organization?
Is it a bad organization if you're trying to have everybody busy, to be busy all the time, to spend your money wisely, and actually because it's on the left side of the map, there's not so much learning going on, and at least not organizational learning.
Maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong place. There's no right or wrong topology. The question is it fit for purpose? And the question to you, and we'll give you a minute to discuss with your colleagues, what is this topology good for?
Yeah. When would you advise a customer to go?
We agile people typically criticize these people. We'll tell them off. We always tell them to go and explore some better places on the map, do a LeSS adoption or a Scrum implementation, but maybe they want to be here. And after this a minute of you talking to each other, we like to hear a couple of real examples where, like, what could be a project or work or a company that is super happy with that.
And actually where it's fit for purpose, not only happy with it.
Fit for purpose. So please have a discussion where this work topology applies. All right, thank you.
Yes.
And if you don't want to talk, you prefer to think, it's also fine. So we like to hear several examples. Where do you think this is fit for purpose? Just shout some examples.
Anyone?
Raise your hand and then shout.
Yeah.
You have a product and you want to monetize it. You don't want to develop it anymore. Yeah.
Good example.
And I would even add to this, probably it's a product that will be like out of life at some point. You really don't want to invest in it anymore. You just need to maintain it. And maybe other group of people are replacing that product, maybe built by another company. I mean, it can still be the same people. Like in LeSS, you can still maintain the old stuff and build the new stuff. But if the company would like to separate these two and maybe have a cheaper labor somewhere, And so this is
Yeah,
possible.
so if you have temporary hires in which you don't
Yeah.
want to invest because they don't need to learn, they just need to do their job, and then
Yeah.
you use their current skills, and after that you
So
say
the
goodbye.
key word, you don't want people
Yeah.
to learn, because learning is investment and you don't want to invest anymore. Anybody else? I saw other hand somewhere down there.
Or is it all
Please.
business? Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Call centers and debt collectors.
That could do.
And yeah, and I think this is a way to optimize a call center to be really low cost. But we all been on this side of a call center, where you are listening to a very bad flute music for 20 minutes, and then you're telling your story, and then somebody puts you on hold, and then you need to repeat your bloody story to another person in 20 minutes. It has some effects on customers. But if you can manage those effects somehow with automation, with stuff, probably that's the way how to care about cost efficiency, not really customer experience per se.
Yeah, but that customer experience is not their optimizing goal.
Yeah,
so
they don't
it's
care,
okay.
and they don't care about, yeah. So it's a good example. Another example.
It's a complaint desk anyway.
Yeah, it's a complaint desk anyway, right? So I would not recommend companies to actually build this for call centers, because we all know how this sucks. But sometimes it makes sense, especially maybe one example we know from non-IT is from the movie industry. And I will just give example, and then I will try to generalize what I mean by that. Like, imagine you are shooting a movie, you need like 20 different actors, and you're hiring actors because they're good at that. You don't expect them to learn, to dance, to sing, to act. You want them to just come on, like read the text and act on it, and to film it, right? And once they're done, they're free to join some other movie projects. Right? So it's where you have really fixed time projects. You're hiring people temporarily, maybe, right? And you don't want them to learn because they know they will quit in few months. And if you have a luxury of this talent, which is there in Hollywood, there you can hire everybody, then why not? But there are also other kinds of movie companies which have staff, which have employees, which help them to, learn and develop. So it's not just that, but let's generalize this, right? You don't want to invest, you don't want people to learn, you will not approve their learning, you would like to use them for what they're good at already. And interestingly, because you don't want these agents to learn, they will likely be replaced by AI in 10, 20 years, because AIs are bad at learning but good at actually doing what they're already good at. So if you find yourself in this topology below, probably you'll be out of job in some kind of a future, maybe, if this goes like it's going now. It's not good or bad, but it's just how it is. And on the other hand, if you have a call center and you like to optimize its costs, like building AI agents who can speak and replace call center agents would also be a smart investment to do.
There was one more remark here, or question?
Deployment project. What is a deployment project? Excuse me.
So
for
deploying
those,
a project.
let's repeat the question first. So what's your name, sir? What Adrian is saying is that you are deploying stuff which is ready, you not develop it, you just do a repetitive task of deploying something or answering phone calls or doing something. It's repetitive, and you expect people just to do that, and there's very limited variability in your work. Because if your variability is broad, like you need to deploy different things, then you probably would want your people to learn different things. But if it's a very standardized things, if you can standardize it, if you can give people instruction how to repeat the work, whether it's deployment or sales pitch or something else, probably this organization, this topology is fit for purpose. We have two more topologies, so I propose we move on. The second topology, you might guess what happens is we kick this box.
And we've been witnessing this, haven't we? Moving from having those single skill specialists into end-to-end teams, or trying to create teams that deliver value, something that we would call the Agile revolution, or the first Agile wave. And we still have a separation between the heads and the hands.
The thinkers and the doers.
But in this case, it's more because it's more complex, right? We're talking about discovery and delivery. Here we have faster units that can deliver. And in between, we still need something to manage that, and it's more fancy to speak of value stream management rather than project management. So I think this is a nice update of the previous version, where it's more capable units doing the delivery because there's more insecurity in what we're trying to achieve. Now the same questions applies here. Fine if you have this, right? But what does it bring you? Oh, I have the clicker, sorry.
So I guess the last time you will need to pull out your phone, probably in this talk, if I'm not mistaken, is the second topology, discovery and delivery duality. What is it good for? And I'm sure it's good for many things, because a lot of companies are actually organized like that. And
most of
some smart people marking lead times. This will be true.
Scroll a little bit down, Utilization.
I will scroll it a bit down. Utilization is not so much anymore. And utilization is pretty low here, which is for a reason, right?
Yeah.
We all know if you put people together in a cross-functional team, you cannot really control who does what anymore. Some people will be just waiting to be able to help others, and this is expected. Like in Scrum, you cannot really optimize for utilization. And I've been with many clients who were doing Scrum, but actually wanted to optimize for utilization. It's a really confusing place to be.
It's a very common pitfall, and it's still there, right?
Yeah. But this second topology is good for optimizing lead times and I guess throughput.
Feature factory.
And how? Well, because before you had this single skill people somebody needed to manage. Now you squash them and put those dependencies. Now the team, an agile team, you can say, contains these dependencies, and I guess they can solve problems way faster. We all understand this. That's why lead times will go. And I've nearly fall from a stage, but I caught myself.
So please have a small conversation again. What is this good for?
Where is this? This is not less. This is typically Scrum per team, right? Setup in software development. Please have another discussion with each other where this topology is good. Higher lead time, lower lead times, higher throughput.
Ownership.
All right, let's hear some answers. Thank you for this lovely chat in the morning. It's also a nice breaker talk. We want you to talk and meet each other. Let's hear a few ideas. Where is this good for? Anybody wants to shout, please?
Nobody? It's not good? No, never?
Sir?
Software houses.
What is a software house?
I think about the company which is doing some business, some functionality for other businesses that are on
like outsourcing, house, software factory.
And it is very important to have big throughput in the delivery.
And they get very clear requirements, which is a responsibility of the other company.
Yep. And you do not want to learn the business of the other guys. Yes.
Okay. Maybe you're not allowed to do that. Yeah. So good answer. Let's try to generalize it. It's good when essentially you know what you need to deliver, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So you just need to be faster going in the direction you're going already. And typically not a case in software product development, where things are changing, where competitors come up with new features, where you need to be able to responding to that kind of change. But I can probably imagine environments where your requirements are super stable. You're building something and it will take you 2 years, and you probably not need to be responding to change in requirements. And if it happens as an exception, you'll just stop and you replan and you just do again. Not a very adaptive organization, but you don't need adaptiveness. You just want to deliver fast, and you don't want to bother your delivery people with thinking about what to deliver. Some kind of a feature factory where it really applicable for. I think a very dangerous place to be too because a lot of product companies, software houses, they want to be here because it's really tempting. Could you please step away? It's really tempting to be here, because here you can really separate things and you can plan, you can predict, you can measure velocity and that kind of stuff. Super nice if you're coming from the project management point of view, but also super dangerous because if you're building something that is going to change because customers will respond and they will don't like it, will be very expensive to change. So it's a situation where you don't want change, and change is not going to happen, and you can accept that change will be expensive, and you're okay with that. Like, what was your example, Roland?
Yeah, I was working with a group of students who were allowed to stop for 1 year at the end of the study to work on a scientific project. It was at the Technical University in Delft, and they had to build a race car on hydrogen in 1 year. So they got this working car, but it was not sufficiently running on hydrogen. So they had specialists of aerodynamics, suspension, mechanics, whatever, deep specialists. They all had their specialism, and they were responsible for updating their part of the car, but the idea of the concept of the car never changed, you know. And they needed to be fast to be able to ship a lot of updates to be ready for the next test run they could do on a test drive.
Yeah. So this is typically not the software world, but maybe more a hardware part. It's actually a very rare case. I mean, I think 95% of software companies, product companies are organized in this manner. But if you can really think if their requirements are going to change, yes, they're going to change. So it's not a place if you really want to be responsive. And the third topology is, of course, where LeSS fits. That is the land of business agility. That's where we jam together dreaming, thinking, and doing. That's a startup where you cannot have time or extra money to waste. That essentially state of high adaptiveness. And it's a startup at scale, right? That's where we started with. So essentially, there is like these 3 generalizations of the places on the map which you can try to go to. First topology, just to recap, a resource-centered topology. You don't want people to learn, people not yours, maybe they're temporarily working for you, and you have an abundance of people you can hire. And AI agents probably will be here for next 5-10 years. Delivery-centered organization, you want to be really fast at delivering stuff, and you're okay to accept that change will be expensive.
And people will be learning in their domain.
And people will be learning, but a very narrow part of the domain, and more adaptive way of being, and I'm sure you all respect that part of the map more, but there are different places. By the way, where would you put like safe framework? Where it fits? You can also map frameworks with Org Topologies. Where safe is good. Safe helps to manage dependencies by these big room plannings. Have a plan.
So they have dependencies, so they will not be here, right? Otherwise you wouldn't have dependencies.
Here will be some kind of safe with resource optimization, and here there will be a delivery-centered safe. So safe, I guess, will be here and here. Every how it's called, release train and safe can be a group of teams that work on delivering on that functionality.
But then the argument that the agile release train would be a concept that lives here. You know, you need to study how do they work in the agile release train, because maybe you will find a gem that where they really the teams are really collaborating during the PI. But in general, probably they will just agree at the start.
We talked to many safe people really trying to understand, can you build something adaptive with safe? And we didn't find any example. If you have an example, we'd love to talk to you. Team topologies. Have you heard of team topologies? If you didn't, don't bother. If you have heard of it, where would it fit? What is it optimizing for? What do they say on the website?
They say fast flow.
Fast flow.
Reducing cognitive loads.
So you don't want people to learn about business because they had they say exploit, which is
Yeah.
not true, but essentially optimizing for fast flow
Yeah.
is here, and it's not good or bad. It's not a bashing safe versus team
Actually-
topologies versus less. Different companies probably need different things, and I think we have like 7 minutes, so we need to
Whoa,
go
let's go quickly
into
for
a
the method.
conclusion. Yes, like a bigger message we're trying to send you guys here in this opening keynote that maybe you can try to think about during this conference. You probably have seen this diagram. It's called a star model by Jay Galbraith, where essentially you start with a business strategy, what the company needs, and then you try to understand which organization I need, and then you try to create organization with a structure, processes, rewards, and people. And if you don't see after this, you are receiving some kind of company with certain behaviors in certain cultures. And essentially, this is an art of, this is the science and art of org design. So this is just a simplified version of this picture, which we're going to use in the next slide. So essentially, you have typically organization which exists for a reason, right? That has some goals, ambition, and then you go in from top to bottom. Like if you're designing an organization from scratch, you would talk to a CEO to understand what her ambitions are, and then you would think, which organization do I need? What does it need to be optimizing for? Is it resource optimization, fast flow optimization, or adaptiveness? And based on that decision, you would create a different organizational design, picking a different topology. So that's like the classical way how the org design works.
Conscious choice. How many people have been doing that?
It very rarely this is a conscious choice, but actually you can talk to your CEO, and based on that, you can derive the capabilities or the optimizing goals of your organization. Say, okay, because they will be entering different markets, they probably need to be super adaptive. So adaptiveness will be this capability. And then you can create an organization which is adaptive, and then you can actually test whether it's adaptive or not, and actually see if that vehicle as an organization helps the business to strive.
As you can see, this is heavily built on the ideas of Craig Larman, because, you know, structure first and then culture will follow. If you're not a believer of that, then, you know, this model will not work for you.
What typically happens, though, in a real world is that you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from some kind of an organizational design, then you're hired in, all of us. And how do you apply org topologies, right? So we have developed this method that seems to be working for us and for our clients, and we want you to try it too. We'll explain it in 2 minutes, and then maybe there will be a time for a couple of questions. So essentially, you have an existing organization, right? So you need to understand it. So you're going upwards on this map first. It says map. Study the existing structure by mapping and determine the current capabilities. So essentially what we are proposing you to do is to get the Org Topologies map or any other tool and try to understand how your organization is, where it sits on the map, which archetypes it has. Once you map it, then you can assess. You can answer the question, is this organization fit for purpose? Maybe you mapped it and you realize it is the second topology. It is optimizing for fast flow. And then you're asking yourself, is this vehicle, is it helping me to drive my business strategy? We don't expect things to change. We just would like to be faster, but maybe your business strategy has changed recently, and maybe you need to adapt, and maybe you need to enter different markets, and maybe it's COVID and something changed. So the question is my organization fit for purpose? So MA, it's the MA from here. So org change made real. So just to remember these 4 steps: map, assess. And once you assess and the answer is no, my organization is not fit for purpose, it needs to be redesigned, then you are going now top to bottom. You are designing your future organization. You are choosing which different capabilities do I need. I need more adaptiveness. I need more of that, less of that. And then you are what we call elevating your organization, because in most cases you would want to go to the maybe in the product development to the top right place that we call elevating.
And elevation in our world is not always necessarily an overnight thing. Actually, it never is. It's a long journey. It could take years in which you do all kinds of experiments. And if, for instance, the idea is that you want to go for the third topology with more business agility, then you could use all those principles and practices that come from the LeSS. And you can try it maybe for a small area in your company to see how that works for you and if it does what it should do, and then decide if you want to go on with this for the rest of your company, or again do the map assessment and then redesign and let this go on as a loop.
And if this part of the map is where you want to go, there are more places to read and learn than LeSS. Of course, there's LeSS, and that's why we're all here. There's a Creating Agile organization from Cesario Ramos and company, and there's a fast, like more Kanban open space technology. And the idea is to create essentially this bigger brain. So if you need a bigger brain, if you want these people all to understand the business and to be able to apply the skills, then this is the really place to go. And we call this elevation of organization because it's actually going up and on the left. And just to give you ideas what we've been working on, please read if you can. We call this elevating katas. Can you guys see it from the back?
You can just read.
They hardly, but we hope that you will send it.
Define products broader. Remove team level backlogs, honors, sprint, one kind of org design guidelines you can apply, form teams of teams. Some companies call them pods, collective, in LeSS we call them product groups. You can use open space technology to help people learn about work. In LeSS it's recommended, right? It's a guide to do a multi-team product refinement workshop with customers. Product level sprint reviews. We all know these ideas from LeSS. Multi-team architecture workshops. Multi-team collective code ownership. Apply AI. You can use AI to go on the map to the right. You can apply AI also to. And last but not least, this is not a final list of things you can do to elevate your organization, and there's a lot of place for your experiments. I'm not sure if you can see it. It says apply your experiments here. And we currently are writing a book with Craig Larman on this. And this book will contain those elevating katas and different places on the map that you can explore. And of course, we want all the companies still to explore this place, the LeSS place, because it's such a rare case.
Yeah, but it's not fit for everybody.
But maybe
right?
it's not fit for purpose. So let's not try to convince everybody to do LeSS. We don't need more LeSS adoptions. We need LeSS adoptions where they are really applicable and of
the idea is, of course, that
high quality.
The idea is that if people start to understand better this relationship between optimizing goals and the structure, and they understand their current designs, that they will want to move towards a place where they can be more adaptive.
Thank you very much. Enjoy this conference. And during this conference, please try to think where your company fits on the map, where the speaker helps you to go on the map. And we hope this can become a helpful, useful tool in your change journeys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.